Hello, good day, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Dice, D&D Chat About AMA. I appreciate you coming by and visiting. Next couple of hours, we'll be talking Dungeons and Dragons, answering questions, and just working on some D&D sturf and projects that I've been working on here at home. Hello, Tyler, Bionics fan, and MT. Good day. Thank you for coming by. Today I've got a couple different things we're going to be looking at. I'm currently remaking a second edition character sheet. Kind of customizing one to be used by players who are in my group or in future groups, because I am in the future hoping to do some like online D&D and stuff as well. Put groups together. Today we played via Skype for the first time, testing that out, and it went well. So potentially doing some of that in the future eventually. Maybe I can kind of widen the group, maybe run short one-shot adventures with different groups. See what else. I have to make. That's what I'm looking for. Harmonize. We'll say that. We're redoing a melee combat charts for monks in second edition. Second edition doesn't have monks per se, and so we're taking the original combat unarmed combat chart and kind of tweaking it to be a martial arts chart. The player in my group who is a monk has written one out with kind of what he'd like to see on there, and I'm just going to kind of tweak out some of the permanent stuff, like exactly how much damage each hit does and things of that nature. Queen of the Sea, how was dinner? Not too bad. I finished off last night's leftover pizza, which was delicious. Stuffed crust pizza is always a win. And then if we get done all of that, I'm going to start making a dungeon map for kind of go over that to create a dungeon, a customized dungeon. That's not meant to be for either my groups, but something that I might use in a future. Hello, Jim. Driving home. Drive safely, my friend. Drive safely. So, I'm going to switch over here real quick. This. All right. So, I have... I've been working on a second edition character sheet. If you're not sure what a second edition character sheet is, let's start with that. That's the front page. It's also one of the only good pictures I could find. Eyes on the road, Jim. Good call. This is what a first edition character sheet looks like on the front side. So, top, you got your name, character, height, age, blah, blah, blah. There's some stuff up here that I just feel is not important. Then you have your primary abilities, strength, dexterity, wisdom, constitution, and the modifiers that go with that, which are very different between second and the current fifth edition. Then you have a movement chart. I'm getting rid of that. It's useless. Saving throws. Armor, I'm going to put some more space in here. Hit points, I'm keeping. Wounds, I'm getting rid of. I've got most of this done, so it's more just kind of showing you what I've got here. Behind the Dose logo. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, there's an artist named Shadowcast who's a member of the community. Has been one of my best friends for a while. She does all the art for the channel and all the art for my merch. So the Behind the Dice logo was designed both for this and for on merch because people were asking for it. So for the record, I should probably pimp that out more. Onlydraven.com is my store where you can see merchandise and stuff for all that. But yeah, that is one of the logos she created for me for Behind the Dice. She does all my custom art. She's really good and she did this too. This was the Pride version of the ODG logo. She also designed that. The poster back there, which I'm not sure you can see real well. Blurring right now. Well, probably because it's glaring, but I'll look back at that. That's one of the other Minecraft art things we did. Hello, Michael. Good day. So again, second edition character sheet, special attacks and ammunition. This section's useless. I got rid of that to give more space for proficiency skills and things like that. Let's see. What about that starting screen for your D&D reading series? Oh, the flaming thing with that actually was a free one that I found online that wasn't licensed that anybody could use. It was originally designed. It was originally my my very first streaming intro before I made the current one I used. That was what I used back when I very first started on Twitch, and then converted it to work. The music is separate. That I got from the YouTube library for creator library that you're allowed to use. I've been using it for ever since I started using that. I really think the music fits well along with it. So there's a backside to the character sheet, which I just realized I forgot to load up here. So bear with me a second while I do that. Source, nope. All the trouble to get the first one on there, and I didn't do the second one. Add a source, new source, add a source, backside. There we go. All right, so that one's a little bit bigger. So the backside of a second edition character sheet looks like this. Place for gear, supplies, which again, I feel this is pretty useless. Experience, coins and gems, which I redo a little bit. Other valuables. Then down here is supposed to be for like miscellaneous magic items, things you find. I guess this was a grid so you could temporarily draw like maps and stuff like this. That's silly. To draw maps and stuff on your character sheet and erase them all the time, you wear through character sheets really fast. So it's just better to use grid paper for that and use this for character. So I got rid of the grid section on mine. And then the bottom is where henchmen and animal companions, I do that very differently than they originally did in the second. So that's the back side of a second edition character sheet, and that's the front side. Okay. So what I've put together is this. Let me put that down a little. Shrink that. That. Turn on the cat cam by accident. And that. Okay, there we go. So here's mine. And let me grab it. Oh, right. I got to move it over here, not over there. So yeah, here we go. Get up here on my head. So what I've done is I've so you did Skype gameplay today. How did that go? Any problems? Nope, no problems at all. Just due to work schedules and stuff between my players, we realized it would be a little bit easier for them to drive 45 minutes to get here. Gave us a little bit more time to play, but we didn't have any problems with it. It worked well. It helped that my wife was sitting next to me. She plays. It's two of us and two of them on one cam. We're doing multi-cams, which I would have to do for a group down the road if I was to do it with miscellaneous folks. I'd have to kind of work that out. But for just the us looking at them looking at us, it worked real well. Okay, so I've redone the top section, a bigger place for your name. I've done this in Excel so that you could feasibly name your character. Each of these slots, it's designed so because people are always looking for a digital version of character sheets. That's kind of what I was putting together here. Not only could you print it out and such, but I found the color I like, and I'm that as close as I could get to the original character sheet. Again, like that. Not far off. It's pretty close. So again, if we look at that first one, see on the character sheet, it's got hit points, got all this extra movement stuff. I've gone ahead and I've taken the abilities and stuff and just given you a lot of place for it. I only removed one ability, and that was a strength ability. And if we look in here, it is weight allowed, how much you're allowed to carry. We just use common sense rules. You know, if you're not sure if you can carry it, you ask the DM, he'll tell you. You know, this gives you an idea of what you can carry, but it's hard to say how much does that rock weigh until you try to pick it up, you know? So that's the only stat that I removed, but I put a lot more space in here for stuff. Armor class, and then I put a list here instead of just a generic armor, place for head, hands, feet, shield, and body. Hit point section. The weapons, I redid this a lot based more on how I've been using character sheets for years. So you've got your weapon, name, skill, ability, the amount of attacks you can get, weapon attack, and weapon damage. So there's two here, right? So attack and damage. This would be if I have a longsword +1. I'd have a +1 to attack and a +1 to damage. Which is a regular longsword, nothing would go here. Then I have skill attack, skill damage. This would be if I have a bonus because of my strength, or additional damage because of some certain skill I have, things like that. Carry a truck in their pocket. Yeah. And that's usually the biggest, for some reason it pops up a lot. Like, could I carry an anvil? No, you can't carry an anvil. Could you feasibly pick one up? Darsh could. Are you going to carry it in his backpack? No. That always comes up for some reason. Anvil is always the thing that people ask. Even before I start with a group. a lot of times people are like, so strong, like, could I carry an anvil? No, you can't carry an anvil. Why does everybody want an anvil? So we've got weapon attack, weapon damage, skill attack, skill damage. Then you have your THAC0, which we've discussed. If you don't remember what THAC0 is, let me know. Second edition THAC0. Your adjusted THAC0. And then you have the total amount of the damage that the weapon itself does. So there's that. So again, taking a quick look at the original character sheet, it has things such as range, weight, type, speed. I've simplified initiative very, very much so. So it's like somebody rolls it for you guys, I roll it for the bad guys. You guys go, then the bad guys go, or vice versa. Individual round. Spell casting can have an effect on initiative just based on exactly what you're trying to cast. You know, most spells, I'll let you just burn them at the beginning, trying to figure out if you go at the end of everything else, right? You're like, oh, we have to add in casting time. This weapon's heavier, so it's slower. It's just too much in the middle of combat to try to figure all that out. I find it sucks a lot of the fun out of a lot of the RP side of the game. So I try to eliminate some of that. Just, you know, at the same time, we actually we played D&D this morning. I'm going to talk about that a little bit while we're going through here, because some of the stuff we did today kind of addresses how I play D&D, how I DM. For example, today they had to cross a very wide lake that had a huge waterfall at the end. Or not lake, river, I'm sorry. They went down the river trying to find a safer place to pass, and they found a very old bridge that was clearly elven architecture. They crossed the bridge. They saw on the other side a small group of buildings, also elven. All of this looked overgrown and uncovered, like uncared for. Moss and vines and leaves, that kind of stuff. So, when they went over there, they began to investigate that. There were 7 identical homes. Each one had a small living area with a small bedroom in the back. 4 of the homes were empty. 3 of the homes had a skeleton in the bed, like they just died in their sleep. The homes where the skeletons existed, the homes were, as you would expect them, neatly cared for someone who lived there, although it looked very old. The 4 of the homes that did not have skeletons were empty, like someone packed all their stuff and left. There's no signs of damage or combat or anything like that. In the evening, they ended up having to fight 2 of the skeletons, and the 3rd one was a skeleton-white hybrid. It was the first time they had to deal with weapons versus bones. So traditionally, a piercing weapon and slashing weapon only does half damage against a skeleton, because they're designed to hit meat. They're meant to cut and scourge and rip apart intestines, and a skeleton doesn't have any of that. So blunt weapons work better against foes of that type. And there's other things besides undead, but that's a thing that they had to deal with today for the very first time. Oh, no worry, Miss Smashley. Most of the DMs don't mess with cast and attack time. No, not much. At least in the early levels. When you start getting up to if you live long enough to get to the big spells, you know, if it's a spell that says you have to prepare for 8 hours, I'm gonna make you prepare for 8 hours. You're not whipping that out in the middle of combat, you know. But if it's, you know, if it adds a few seconds to casting time, I'm not too worried. I just try to play that fast and loose as quickly as I can. So special abilities I've got down here, and then I've got proficiencies and skills. This is one thing I really like about 2nd edition versus what little I played with 5th. When it came time to choose your proficiencies and skills, there's like a couple hundred you can go through and choose. You have a certain amount of points you can spend and choose which weapon skills and non-weapon skills you know how to use. From rope use to cobbling to Bowyer Fletcher, appraising. A lot of different cool abilities that you get to kind of pick what you want, and you gain more as you level up. This is the first page of that character sheet. So then we go to page 2. I've moved the saving throws to the 2nd page just because you don't use them as often. And again, this is designed to be used digitally as well. So if somebody wants to digitally fill out their character sheet, they can. I've got all the cells merged, so if somebody wants to do that. I still have to tweak up the sizes a little bit. But, you know, Nobody has a saving throw of 45. That's just an example. And then a place for basic gear. Gear isn't as important. This would be your non-magical gear. If you've got torches or hemp rope 50 feet, things like that. Experience, how much you have and how much you need for your next level. Because 2nd edition, not everyone levels at the same speed. Some classes need more experience to get to another level than the others. And then I have the coins broken down: platinum, electrum, gold, silver, copper. The order of value. Although very rarely do I mess with electrum, I've still got it there. Let's see, what's the big difference there? I know a group using 5e and they have various proficiencies, but they did not post the character creation on the YouTube channel, so I'm not sure how that works. They may have used more of a 2nd edition style, but when you look at 5th edition, very often there's like a list of like, was it like 15, 20 tops that you could choose from? And they're just about everything else is bunched up under those, so it's more like you're getting a subclass of abilities. And you may gain 1 or 2 more as you level of those subclasses, where I feel for customization, you can really get in there. 2nd edition, you got like, you start with 8 or 9 points. You can go in and very special stuff. I know blacksmithing and I know armor smithing, but I don't know weapon smithing. But at the same time, I can swim and I know how to ride a horse. Those are all skills that you have to have. You do not swim by default. Take swimming. And just because you don't have the ability doesn't mean you can't do that. That's the thing I want to stress. Anybody, me today, if I've never been on a horse, I can hop up on a horse and maybe slowly and painfully get across my township. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to be fighting on the back of a horse. You know what I mean? I'm going to fall off. He is not going to like me. That's just how that works, you know? I can swim enough to not die, but I'm not going to be holding my breath a long time going to the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of this pool and working on a trap or a puzzle that happens to be underwater. I'm just not going to have that capability as a regular person. So not having the skill doesn't mean you can't do that. It just means you can only do what someone doing it for the first time could do. Right, anybody could try to pick a lock. You've got a 1% chance of maybe getting it if you've never done it before. By luck, right? But somebody skilled with it can do more. So yeah, it kind of goes that route. And there's things like cooking. Our monk has cooking. So anybody can make a meal. Anybody can throw fire down and put a piece of meat over it. But this is someone who can take some forced potatoes, some seasoning, and make an actually good meal to feed people. So things along those nature. Today, forced potatoes became a thing. I was trying to say that the area they were traveling through was very lush. Lots of animals and vegetation, and, berries and fruit on trees. And I'm like, potatoes and such. And I kind of got a sideline look. I'm like, yeah, forced potatoes. Totally a thing on Mergedworlds. Forced potatoes are the best. But yeah. So, anyways. So yeah, for treasure, and then just lines for treasure in general. You find a silver plate worth 50 gold, a diamond versus 100 gold. That's where you'd write that stuff. And then I got rid of that grid stuff that I was talking about and just put a lot more place for you to write magic items, command words, specific things you find of importance. This is kind of where the 2nd edition character sheet goes. For me at the top, I got rid of a lot of the stuff they had, like birth rank and things like that, because I don't find that to be normally that important. And it's not something important enough that you normally have to write it down. You need to know your alignment, your race, your class, and what level you are. That's an easy one. Homeland. So homeland can be one of a couple things in Mergedworlds. You could say this is like, let's just say Mergedworlds, my podcast, right? Serenity would very, very often be a homeworld now, or homeland, or that could be that's the homeworld that I'm from, and together with a player we could create a world that you came from, and you're maybe trying to find that world again. You hated the grid. I also hated the grid. It's just a waste of space. Liege or patron. So, putting it in current Mergedworld storyline, Ran or Quan would very easily put Mercy as liege or patron, right? So there's something smooth about. And then religion, you do not have to be a cleric to have a religion, nor do you have to only pray to one god, unless you're a cleric. They got to specialize there. But, if you're a sailor, you got the god of seas and maybe goddess of nature. There may be a couple combinations there. If you're a minotaur, God of war and God of the seas. You've got ships too. Something wrong with, tipping the hat to multiple deities and looking for blessings and non-hatred. But if you want to choose a specific god or religion whose faith you feel more drawn to, that's what the religion would be for. Except for, again, a cleric or druid or paladin who would be more specifically chosen. I like your sheet far better than the few character creation sheets I've tried making up for character face stories. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So again, we've got sex, age, height, weight, hair, and eyes. Basic stuff to remember. Most of this, there are charts in 2nd edition that will tell you. You can roll to see how tall you are, how heavy you are, your age, things like that. Or if you know what you want, I usually just let them pick it within reason. Nobody has silver hair, damn it. Everybody always wants silver hair. I don't know why female elves always want silver hair. But no, you can't have silver hair. It'll never happen. Eyes, again, so on and so forth. And I've got languages. So you can write down different languages that you want, that you may know. So there's several lines for that. Yeah. So again, with 2nd edition, your strength skill denotes these things. Hit probability. So that's whether or not you get a bonus to attack, bonus to damage, the maximum amount of weight you could feasibly bench press, the chance you have of opening a locked or barred door physically, like busting through it, and then you have bend bars, lift gates, which is literally bending the bars on a cell or lifting a gate that's dropped down. There are specifics to that. You can't say, I'm going to walk to this castle and lift its front gate, and the thing's like 3 tons. You're not going to be able to do that, I left luck off. You're correct. I didn't put luck on there because I haven't used luck in a long time, and I'm thinking about doing something different with luck that I'm not sure about yet. So I did leave it off there. You are correct. So normally your luck skill is the 7th ability that I use. And that's where you grab your 6 ability scores, add them up and divide them by 6. It's your average skill is your luck level. In extreme situations where you're trying to do something that seems slightly difficult, impossible, and doesn't really fall under a specific skill, you can use the luck skill instead. So that kind of thing. Reaction adjustment. So this is your defense adjustment. This helps lower your armor class. You're so dexterous that your reaction to somebody jumping out and swinging a sword at you, you're faster, you're more likely to dodge it. Makes it harder to hit you. Missile attack adjustment. You're so dexterous, you've got a better shot of hitting people with ranged weapons. And then defense adjustment, same type of thing. Hit point adjustment. This is bonus hit points you get per level because you're very healthy. System shock. So system shock means several different things, right? System shock is literally surviving a shock to the system. Most commonly, if you take 50% of your maximum damage in a single hit, you roll system shock or you pass out. You literally go into shock. That much damage inflicts enough pain that it literally shocks your system. Very rarely does anyone die from system shock, but it will have an effect on you. Resurrection survival. Constitution's low enough and someone tries to resurrect you, you just may not survive. Poison save is a bonus to saving versus poison, and then regeneration, you've got to have a pretty high. I think you have to have a 19 constitution before you unlock regeneration. Sure, that could work. Extreme heat to extreme cold, so on and so forth. Let's see. Yes. So then we've got under intelligence, number of languages. So not only does that the number of languages you can use, that's also the number of bonus non-weapon proficiency skills you get at the beginning of creating your character. Spell level. This is purely for mages and clerics, but this is the highest level of spell you'll ever be able to cast. This is a mage thing. Sorry, not clerics, mage thing. So if that says 5th, doesn't matter if you find a 6th level spell and you get high enough to cast 6th level spell, you are not smart enough to cast a 6th level spell. It is beyond your ability to comprehend it. Primary wizard skill, if you will. Chance to learn spell. If you find a spell and you try to copy it into your spell book, the chance of learning that spell is a percentage there. Spells per level is the maximum amount of spells you can ever learn of an individual level. So if that says 9, and you know 8 first level spells, you've got to decide which one you want to be your 10th spell. You can always cast spells off of a scroll. Anybody can, any mage can cast spells off a mage scroll as long as they can cast spells of that level. But if I find 2 scrolls and I'm like, well, I really want both of these, I can't. And you can't get rid of one you know to add another one. Doesn't work like that. So if you can get up to either 18 or 19 intelligence spells per level, there's no maximum. You can learn as many as you want. So that's always a big goal for most folks. Let's see, is one thing I missed from 2.0, more languages from intelligence mod? Yep. And then spell immunity, if you can get up to 18 and 19, you start to become immune to, I believe, charm spells and enchantments and such. Wisdom, magical defense adjustment. This is a bonus you get to saving throws against anything of a magic nature. So we go back down here. Paralyze and poison, unless it's a spell, you wouldn't get it there. You would get it versus rods, staffs, or wands. You would get it Petrify Polymorph if it's a spell. You would not get it for Petrify Polymorph if it was an ability, like a Gorgon or Basilisk. Breath Weapon, you just don't get it. And then spells in general, you get it. This is where you put your modifier. This is what put the number you have to get. You have to roll over this number. Whatever this number is, you get to add to whatever you roll to try to be over that number. Spells are just spells in general. So most of the time, if you're looking at a spell, it'll tell you, is there a chance of save? Save for half. Well, then that's what you got to roll to save for half. Or if you fail, you take full damage. Bonus spells. So, 2nd edition, when it comes to clerics, bonus spells are awesome. Because the way that works is, these are additional spells you get to cast a day. So let's just say that said first. That means you have an extra 1st level spell you can cast that day. It says second, you can cast the 2nd, and you get a bonus 1st. So there's a chart on there. As your wisdom goes up, it unlocks more. Like when you get to like 18, you get another 1st, 2 seconds, and a 3rd. So, and it's combined with everyone above that. So the more wisdom you get, the more bonus spell points. Because I use a spell point system. None of that memorized and spell shit. I don't like that. You can cast every cleric spell within your spheres. And we're going to talk about that. If you're a cleric, if you're a wizard, you can cast any spell you know that many times. Yes, magic. If you can cast 7 spells a day, you can cast 7 magic missiles or 7 different spells you know. You don't have to memorize them. You don't lose them. You have to relearn spells at night and study like everyone else, but you don't have to choose your spells before the beginning of the day. It is probably one of the things I hate the most about any form of modern D&D. And even old D&D, because even 2nd edition, technically you're supposed to do that. I don't like that. Any D&D, I should say. You just don't, especially when it comes to clerics. I've made this argument before. You as a cleric, probably not going to know what spells you're going to need that day. Your spells are literally granted to you by the god that you worship. Shouldn't that sumbitch know what spells you're going to need more than you are? If you wake up and you're like, what spells can I use today? Oh, these ones. Yes, they're going to be important. I mean, really, that person should be sending you the spells you need, right? Wizards, you can make a different argument. But for clerics, at least, there should be, here, these are the spells you can use today. That makes way more sense for me. So that's how we play it. We play it spell point ways. And it just makes, it's very much, it's a mixture between spell points and mana, right? Like you've got your bar. Each spell drains it down. The one thing I did like about 5th edition that I am going to be acclimating into my 2nd version, this is probably my favorite thing that I actually got out of the short term I did 5th. Luckily there's homebrew. I agree 100%. Today I think it will be super hard for me to get back to 2.0. There's a lot of things. Gotcha. And again, homebrew sometimes can fix all that. But the one thing I really like from 5th is that you can use a 2nd level spell point or slot to cast a 1st level spell at an increased level. I think that's awesome. In both wizards and clerics, 2nd edition spells aren't the choicest of spells. There's a lot of spells in there. You're like, I have people like, well, I'm out of all my healing spells. I've got no damaging spells. I can cast 5 more 2nd, but there's nothing in there I can use in any situation. They're just there. So 2nd edition spells, for some reason, just don't have the best spell selections. So that's a great way for someone to use a 3rd or a 4th spell or 2nd spell to cast a first level spell, but at a slightly better. I like that. I am going to be acclimating that into second. You don't choose before the adventure? Yeah, I don't like that either. So that's so we were talking about bonus spells. That's bonus spell points that you get. In Merged Worlds, because I have my own pantheon of gods, all clerics get a bonus ability, sometimes two, and they get another one at 10th level. These are a granted power by the god. Give you an example. One of our clerics, Ashley's character, is a cleric of the light, which is basically lawful, the good. That's what they're for. And as a cleric of light, she gets a +1 attack and +1 damage against anything that's lawful evil. Whereas the cleric of darkness gets the same thing against someone of a lawful good thing. One of the bonus abilities for the cleric of knowledge is they have a 60% chance of understanding any language that they read. You know what I mean? That's just, again, with the amount of knowledge and the comprehension abilities that they have, that's one of those things. So there's different stuff there, right? And these are granted abilities on top of your spells. They don't count against spells. It's just an ability. Some of them are constant, they're passive ability. Some of them are activated abilities. So on and so forth. So then we have spell fail. Percentage chance that as a cleric, your spell will fail. If you are not have enough wisdom, you are weak in faith. And there is a chance your spells may fail because your god feels you're weak in faith. You're not confident enough. Now, fortunately, even an average skill of 13 is going to put that at 0. So there's not, once you get like 13 or 14, there's no chance of failing. So no wisdom, cleric in their right mind is going to make wisdom a dump stat. So usually pretty good. And then spell immunity, again. When you get high enough in wisdom, you start to become immune to illusions. Or no, intelligence is illusion. Wisdom is charm spells. That's what it is. I got that mixed up. You're so intelligent you can see through illusions, and you're against charm spells as a wizard, or as wisdom. Charisma, maximum number of henchmen. That is not how many people follow you. You can have a whole damn army. The henchmen are your elite group who are loyal to you. You know what I mean? Your army might go one way, military might go one way. Great example again in Merged Worlds, that's Mercy's knights. Her knights are her henchmen. She has other people, obviously, in the group. Like there's the people that help her in the castle, allies, and so on and so forth. But her henchmen are her knights. Those are the people who, loyalty-wise, are going to be there. Loyalty base is an adjustment used when testing someone's ability of loyalty. So hypothetically, you're fighting against a dragon. That's going to be part of whether or not they run away and abandon you. So on. Hey, what's up, Jordan? Good day. And then reaction adjustment is how well people react to you because of your charisma. So high charisma doesn't always mean attractive. Usually that helps. But if you go into a new town and walk up and strike up a conversation with the store owner, that reaction adjustment will become part of how they accept you. Are you very friendly of tongue? You're very, you know what I mean? You're very charismatic. You go up there, hey, how you doing? And you're friendly, make them laugh. Haha. You're like an old friend after 5 minutes. He's more likely to not try to price gouge you or, gyp you. He's more likely to give you a fair price because you're just that amiable kind of thing. Same as especially if you're getting into a situation where you're trying to even intimidate or something. That can all become a part of that. So I wanted more room for these because the original second edition sheet just has little tiny spaces to write this in, and it's hard to read sometimes. So I made that all the way across. Special abilities are where you're going to be write stuff like infravision, things like that. Default. Anybody can search for secret doors. Everybody has a 1 in 6 chance of finding it. Elf, you have a 1 or 2. Dwarves as well have an addition to that. But humans and gnomes and all them, anybody can say, I want to search this room for secret doors. If you roll a 6-sided, you get a 1, you found it. This is for normal secret doors. These are not magically hidden or enchanted secret doors. But just something with a button or, a candlestick that opens up stairs, whatever. Something like that. Everybody has a chance of finding that if they're looking for it. I'm told highly, question from Queen, I'm told I'm highly charismatic. Right thing, most people forget me because I'm so nice. There you go. Always not ready. There you go. So yeah, things of that nature. So this is my character sheet anyways, and this is what I'm working on. I might tweak it just a little bit more. Hello, Onzo. Good day. Tweak it a little bit more, but I'm going to print these out eventually, and then I'm going to make it available online, so that way when I play, if I do start playing online with groups of people, they will have access to the character sheets that I use. I'm going to also save it as a PDF. I'm going to get that copy of it so people who don't have Excel can still take it out and print it that way. They just won't be able to probably go in digitally, you know. So I've got some options there, but I'll make it available to people who want to do that. All right. Oops, that was wrong. So that was phase 1 of today's plan. Just kind of talk about the character sheet I've been designing. I am going to put some type of Mergedworlds symbol up in here. 2nd edition Mergedworlds. I'm going to get something along those lines to customize it, kind of put my little stamp on it. But I'm pretty pleased with it. And this is going to be way better. There's so much more information for magic items and stuff. 2.0, technically. It's 2.Draven. I guess it's probably the best way to say it. I've done a lot of homebrewing. Over the 30 years I've been DMing, I've changed a lot of things. Some things I've stolen from video games, to be honest with you. Concepts and ideas and such. But yes, most of it's running off basic 2.0. It's definitely the base of everything that I do. So, second thing today, we are going Thaco calculator. There's a chart in the 2nd edition Player's Handbook you use. Thaco tells you your base Thaco, and then our Thaco calculator is basically right here. This is going to tell you what your adjustments are, whether they're the weapon-based adjustments or your personally based adjustments. So if I'm specialized in longswords, I get a +1/+2. That's just how that works. If I have a +1 and a +2 because I'm very strong, that makes that a +2/+4. These are all of my abilities specifically. This denotes a magical weapon of some kind. Put that lovely character sheet up where anyone. Oh, that's I definitely gonna make it. I'm gonna try to set it up where there's a place you can download this stuff from my website. I'd like to eventually start pre-making D&D campaigns that people could get off of my website. Probably have a couple free ones and maybe some more advanced ones that I might sell digitally. I don't know yet. It's something I've been thinking on for a while. But stuff like this I would make available. Anybody could have this. As well as I'm going to do a new spell sheets as well, which are more for wizards and clerics. But I'm trying not to make it 100% Mergedworlds. I'm leaving it open for people who may want to use it. But yeah, I'll have this up eventually, either downloadable, probably as an Excel spreadsheet, or as a PDF file for people who don't have access to Microsoft. I have all my dice sets from 20 years ago. Feel nostalgic. I've got I got a tackle box. Big tackle boxes are great for dice holders when you have them. So I have a small tackle box I used to use. That's now my wife's dice box, because I slathered her in dice when we first started playing. She's probably got 12 or 14 sets by this point. But I found a lot of relatively cheap ones. Ordered them in bulk. So that was kind of cool. Give her different colors. But yes, so that was that. So now one of the things I'm going to fiddle with is I'm going to be finishing up. Where's that? Here it is. Going to be finishing up the melee combat that we've been working with for 2nd edition martial arts. So we have a monk. That monk knows how to physically fight. There is an unarmed combat sheet in 2nd edition, a chart, but it's definitely more of someone who's a brawler or a wrestler type kind of thing. It's not really martial arts style. So we're going to kind of fix that today. Jim went and did a great job of putting down all of the different types of martial arts abilities that he'd like to see in there. I'm going to kind of show you how second edition martial arts, or melee or unarmed combat, that's the term I'm looking for. So we're gonna fiddle with that for just a bit. We're going to talk about some of it. See, right off the bat, we're going to have, let's see how many categories. We've got roll, the name of the attack, the amount of damage it does, percentage chance of KO, and then there's normally a wrestling move, a wrestling side of it, where is it possible to pin the person or deal prolonged damage? That's one part I want to look at, because the chart I think we have is based off of the original unarmed combat. So we're going to see. He's got a lot of cool names for attacks and such. And on this chart, you'll have 1 through 20. 20 doesn't always mean it does more damage than 15. It's an odd thing, but we'll talk about it. So let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to make the chart now. I'll worry about coloring around it and such, adding cells later. I don't know why I did that wrong. So whenever I start working like this, I like to make myself a grid. That way I can merge cells to be different sizes for different columns and things that I need. So for example, I'm going to have a roll column. And then I haven't touched this in a week and I forget where half the buttons are. There we go, merge and center. So that's going to be for roll. See how many of those we've got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19. Wow, I was really close on that. 20. File. Print. Excellent. Now that I've done that, it shows me where my print lines are. My print lines are down to here, so I've got some space in here to color around this, which is kind of what I want to do. So that's going to be that. In fact, we're going to go ahead and add one cell in here, so our title is a little bit bigger to work. I think that I'm going to redo this a bit. Right off the bat, I've got more room to work with than I thought. I'm going to go ahead and unmerge those. Take that. Well, let's go ahead and make that 4 since I'm making it bigger. I'm going to do it like this. 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There we go. That used a little bit more. There's no more critical hit dice on 1s and 20s. Oh, no. Critical hit still works. Critical hit still works. Yeah. So I've talked about this in the past, but some of you may not have been here for earlier episodes. Critical hit and critical fumble. A natural 1 and a natural 20. So difference between a natural 20 and an unnatural 20. If you roll the dice and it lands on 20, that's a natural 20. If you roll a dice and it lands on 17, but you have a +3 to hit, you rolled a 20, but it's not a natural 20. Ones work the same way. You could roll a 3, but have a -2 to it. You just hit a 1. Still not a critical fumble. If you roll a critical hit or critical fumble, I have critical hit dice and critical fumble dice that I had custom made. Critical hit dice, you have the chance to do double damage, triple damage, sever limbs, stun, KO, or death. DM approval, mind you, are not normally going to roll death on the dragon, who's the end boss. Critical fumble, hit ally, hit self, drop weapon, break weapon, stun yourself, knock yourself out. So, upsides and downsides, it's always fun. Where did you get your box for dices? Like what I carry my dice in? Like the actual container for dice? Hold on a moment, I'll show you my butt. And let me grab a player. So I went to Walmart and literally bought a tackle box. And let me look at something real quick so I can see. I mean, hang on, I'm gonna flip over real quick. Yeah, so this is literally a tackle box that fishermen would use. Got a little extra place in the top for pencils and stuff, or minis. That was a weird noise. Did I just lose volume or something? Nope, mic's working. And then, dice. Ooh, let's pull it more this way. So I've separated, I got 4s, 6s, 8s, 10s, 12s, 20s. Here a little bit. It's not the biggest space here. I try not to drop it. And then I do have some minis from characters. That was Dandy's original mini, purchased by that's the closest they could find. Couldn't find a Kender one. So what else is here? A whole different character. Then I have, like, down in the bottom, I have some custom sets that I still have the cases for. These are the critical hit dice and critical fumble dice I was talking about. They're made of metal. They're big and heavy. Brings a lot of weight to it. They've been dice punched. Just had a friend make them in his shop for me. I'd like to get some more professionally designed some like these so that I could use them and give them out. Then I have a 30-sided dice, 34-sided dice, 100-sided dice in a drawer because I was using it for other stuff. Then I have a body location dice. Right leg, left arm, right foot. So if you need to roll, where did the arrow hit him? Sever limb, I can roll to see which one. But there's plenty of room. They almost always come with dividers, so you can even section your sections out more if you want them specifically. There's a lot of opportunity to do that. Like if you look in the top of the tackle box here, there's these little lines you can slide dividers down, so I could add more sections if I wanted. But yeah, I like this because not only is it really give you a lot of different compartments so you can keep your dice separate, it's meant to be carried around. It comes with a handle. It's a tackle box. Highly recommend tackle boxes. I think I got that for like $15, 12 or $15 at a Walmart when I upgraded from my smaller one, which I'd used for years. I only had this one about 2 years now. You work at a sporting goods store. Oh yeah, I'm sure you've got a ton of them. But yeah, we go back over now. So this is going to say roll. I'm going to fix that. Let's see. Got roll. Make this the attack. I may change this in a minute. Let's see. Damage. Queen of the Sea, thank you very much for joining the membership program. That is a pleasure to have you. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. It is rare that I have things like that happen during D&D stuff. It's mostly on Minecraft nights. So thank you. It is a pleasure to have you. Now, if you haven't already, I know you're a member of the Discord, please make sure that your YouTube and Twitch accounts are linked to your Discord, and that will automatically give you access to the members threads in our Discord as well. So it automatically will grant you that level. It knows when you have a membership, just as long as you have them linked. If you're not sure how to link them, in the general tab, I believe there's a pinned message at the top with instructions on how to do that. So thank you. We're a pleasure to have you. Hey, Ashley's also happy. Ashley rocking that big diamond dice over there. Over 12 months. So the dice colors go brown. It starts with leather, iron, gold. Then is it diamond, emerald? I believe it's diamond, then emerald, and then supremium is last, right? I can afford. Okay, yeah, we'll get your YouTube linked up there as well. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Excellent. That was a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. So there's damage. Percentage chance for KO. Oh, this is actually going to work out really well because this is going to fit real well. I like that. All right, so that means for this, I need to merge two. Let's see, what else? I found one box on Amazon. Tons of slots, but I don't want to have big dice. So big to get in the slots. Right. That's why I like the traditional tackle boxes, because a lot of tackle Like if you're using lures, lures can be 1.5 to 2 inches wide, depending on what you're fishing for, which is right around the size, actually a little bit bigger than a 20-sided. You could probably fit almost 2 20-sides beside each other in some of these tackle boxes, in some of the sections. And I liked this one because I could use those black dividers to design how, like I have big squares for all my 4 and a big square for all my 6s. So I've got more 6s and 20s than anything else. Most of us do, right? Jordan says, for my Magic the Gathering cards, I use construction nail storage boxes and other wooden chests for dice. Excellent. Yeah, there's so many great ways to carry that. And I'm sure that if some of you may have done this, but if you hadn't, if you've been playing a while, you'll be familiar with what I'm talking about. Dice bags are what most people use, right? Everybody uses a dice bag. Who knows what the original dice bag was? I'm just wondering if any of you can guess the original dice bag. I say original because it's early in the 70s and 80s. That's what I saw most people would use, other than just like a grocery bag or a paper bag. The first anything that was a specialty bag. Real quick, let me format cells. I want my alignment to be center, center, center. That's going to be roll. Attack. Gygax. Gygax bag? I'll tell you how I say it. And when I say it, most of you are going to say, "Oh, that makes sense." Dirty socks? Possible. It's possible. But 99 when I was a kid and I was younger and I saw people playing D&D and I saw people even in videos and such, people are, see live people. I go to like a store that sold D&D stuff. People playing D&D in the back. Crown Royal bags. The Crown Royal bag that a bottle of Crown Royal comes in is exactly what a dice bag is. It's a soft velvety egg with a drawstring at the top. And everybody wanted their dad's Crown Royal bag because it was perfect for dice. This is early, before there was companies out there actually making dice bags, right? Crown Royal bags have been around for a long time. Crown Royal, for those of you who may not know, is an alcohol. But they come in a bluish, or like purple, I believe. Purplish with gold thread. But yeah, Crown Royal bags are what everybody used when I was a kid. You find your dad or your uncle, your grandpa, somebody who drank Crown Royal, and like, please, can I have the bag off one of your bottles? And it was a dice bag. It was you buy a dice bag on Amazon right now, write Crown Royal on the front, and you've got a Crown Royal bag. That's pretty much how it works if it's a cloth bag. Can you write it down? Find it on Amazon? Yeah. So Crown Royal, the alcohol. And they still sell it in the bags. I put it in chat for you. Let me know if you can't see that. I've been having some problems with it accepting me chat. But yeah, Crown Royal is a whiskey. I've got a Crown Royal. I just don't have the bag anymore. I gave it to someone to use as a dice bag. Back in the day. All right. So let's crank this size up a bit. Let's bold it. I knew this one was going to have to go down. That's why I might change that to damage. Fits a bit better. What is that? 26? 6. Now I feel like that's a little big. Take that down to 20. Damage. Yeah, that was the problem. So yeah, Motherland whiskey. There you go. 1, 2. Goes up there a little bit. Padoop, padoop. Oh, let's bold it as well. Bold is nice. That looks good. Oh, you're very welcome, Lex. Yeah, if you just Google Crown Royal bag, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Are you using incantation for your mage player? Back my day, my DM created incantation for all spells. No, I don't normally do that, but I do custom make command words. For some of you who've been around, I've talked about it during Mergedworlds before. But I like to take words that are normal in our language, but would sound strange for people who don't know what they are. So lasagna is a magic word, is a command word. Uh, that is, if I remember correctly, that's the command word for the flying carpet. And toaster was the command word for Artemis's figurines of wondrous power, which are the two lions that she named Penn and Teller. So yeah, I like to choose weird words that we'll remember, right? Like you'll remember lasagna, But if someone says lasagna, like it's a flowy word. If you didn't know what lasagna was, that could mean anything. You know what I mean? It's just kind of sounds artsy. And it's just a funny way we have of remembering them. So I usually choose a real word. Penn and Teller, yeah, that's what she named her lions, her figurines of wondrous power, which she used a lot more often than I bring them out in the Merged World story. Nearly any combat, Penn and Teller came out, or any time where, like when they were in war with Oromon and stuff, and she was in the back healing people with Lucas. She was walking around with Lucas and Penn and Teller. Like there's, everybody knew she walked around with two lions. It's part of what she's known for. I didn't play that as much up in the story because a lot of times they came out when it was time for combat and then they'd go away. So they didn't have a lot. Linguini is another great one. Basically anything Italian and edible, I will use my Hot Pocket. Maybe not that one. All right, let me go back over here and pull up the attacks Mr. Jim has aligned for this. Now, I just realized I did this backwards, so we have to fix that. Erase that. 2019 makes way more sense. Oop, went way too far. Get on up there, goes moving on up. There. You want to hit 20 at the top, right? Technically, and he has it right down like 20 plus, because it's possible. So, let's see what we got here. Flying sidekick. So these are just kind of the martial arts moves, basic martial arts moves that he had researched and added for the list. And I'm fine with pretty much all of these. I may reorder just a couple, just because it looks like a whole bunch of the top ones are kicks. And I'd like the kicks and punches to just be a little bit more every other kind of thing. So let's see, side, snap kick. So we're going to get them all in here, but we may move a couple around. Jumping knee strike. Boop. All right, that's not a bad one. Stomping kick. So as you can see, all the top ones are kicks. So I would want to rearrange them. Did I spell stomping wrong? Still spelled stomping wrong. Let's see. Kick, yes. Jumping back kick. Okay. Low roundhouse kick. 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 Strike. Donkey punch. There we go. There's a punch. Front kick. It's appear to be very kick based. May have to switch a punch or two in. We may change the name of nut grab, and we're gonna put groin punch. The S will make sense in a minute. Then there's one that just says back. 6 just says back. Not sure what that one is. We'll have to look. And then we have groin punch. Split. That's while doing the splits, which is very cool. Eye poke. I like that. Oops. Eye poke. Kick. You have jumping front kick. Kick. Ooh, Fury Fist. I'm interested to see what that is. And kick to head. That gets us started. Let's see here. 1-inch punch. Oh, 1-inch punch is a great one. I love the 1-inch punch. Great idea. All right, so Jim, when you did the damages, did you use the same damages and percentages for KO that were in the player's handbook under the original chart, or did you pick those? I'd be interested to know. While you're doing that, I have to something as well. Because I see a few that I'd like to see. There's a few of these, if you don't mind, I'm going to tweak these and we'll see what Jim thinks. The original, excellent. That's how I like. That's what I liked as well. It looked like it. I'm going to tweak a couple, but that's all right. We're going to make this work. I like a lot of this. I'm going to change a couple. I'm going to choose a couple. I'm going to grab just a couple actual martial arts different moves that I know of. And take that, move that down to that. The reason I'm putting scissor kick up here is because a scissor kick takedown is something that feasibly will allow you to straight up take down a character and hold them to pin them, which makes sense since it has the highest percentage chance of KO. That I would let you roll the 20, double, triple damage would still potentially take effect, as well as stun person, kill person. Obviously, you're not going to sever limb with a scissor kick, but, you know, we will take a couple things here. The 1-inch punch. Yeah, 1-inch punch is awesome. Found a tackle box on Amazon, and I like, sadly, how expensive it is. 6 slots. Oh, I like it, too. I highly recommend, man, hitting up a Walmart. Walmart's got a ton of really... Walmart's known for that, right? Relatively qualitative stuff at a cheap price. You could probably score one for under $20 pretty easily there. Let's see. I would like to take some of the feats and make them into hits. I can picture you doing all these cool monk moves. Do you see yourself more as a kicker than a puncher, Jim? Which is perfectly fine. I mean, I'm just wondering. For a monk character, I'm trying to think of monk characters in movies and shows that weren't private detectives, to remember what their fighting style looked like. But I guess it is, I think it's a good mixture. Let's see. The jumping back kick. I'm only going to take that one out because you'd have to literally be facing the other way. I feel like you'd have to be in a specific position to pull that off. What I'm going to put in there is I'm going to put in uppercut. That's just everywhere. Ooh, what the hell is a wheel punch? Wheel punch sounds cool. Let's see here. Only one dissatisfied with a Walmart purchase. Oh, I've been dissatisfied with a lot of Walmart purchases. Don't have anyone near me, but I was thinking that earlier. Yeah, Walmart. If not, even like I said, a Dick's Sporting Goods. Target may have them. I don't think there's any Kmart's left. Okay, what do we got here? All right, so I'm going to make the groin punch a single thing. We have a whole bunch of groin stuff. And I'm going to make this bear paw. I'd like to get a couple of the actual different styles in here. And let's see, what have we got? Donkey Punch is great. We're totally keeping that. But not Dragon Punch. Oh, God, no. Inappropriate. Let's see. I said I like 99% of these. I just want to rearrange some of the kicks and punches. Eye Poke. Eye Poke doesn't seem like a martial arts move. But many people. So that makes sense. That. Ooh, there we go. I like that. What do we do? Groin punch, which I'm fine with that. We have a groin kick. I'm fine with that as well. I put jump, frony kick. What was I thinking there? Foot sweet. Oh my God, I can't spell for nothing. Stomping kick. That's on this list. I like that. Knee strike, toe kick. Toe kick. Let's replace toe kick with roundhouse. Can't spell anything today. Roundhouse. And I need to get a punch up top. The first 6 are kicks. So let's take foot sweep. I like that because it's a knockdown. Side snap kick also makes sense. Let's get rid of jumping knee strength. I only say I'm thinking about Jim. Jim is a gnome. Knee strike for him is pretty much a groin anyways. We're going to do for kicks. I know what we're going to do. What was I replacing? Already forgotten it. Dang it. It's back. Turn into roundhouse. Yeah, we got roundhouse in there as well. Yep. Spearhead poke. Jumping knee strike. I'm going to switch that just a little bit to put a back fist in there. Not back fist 6. Yeah, I want to put another of the claw. I got bear paw in there. Tiger claw is another one I'd like to fit in there. I was torn between that and mantis, but I think tiger would be a little bit better. So let's I want to keep foot sweep. I don't know off the top of my head what Fury Fist is. Oh yeah. No. Eye poke. I wanted to keep what I want, foot sweep. I like foot sweep. I'm gonna put that down here though. Foot sweep. Oh, you're good, bud. No worries, Michael. And the one I was just moving was what? And the jumping front kick. Where'd it go? Take down hook kick. I don't understand what. Oh, there it was. It was foot sweep that I moved. I was looking for the wrong one. We're going to do tiger claw. Tiger claw? Yeah, claw. All right. 5th edition, it's 3 punches. That would make sense why hitting that on a 1. 1 is a hard one. Because technically you still critical fumble, right? Hello, tiger. We just put in a claw based on you. All right. I like that set of moves. I'm fine with that. Let's fold it. All this fit. I like that. Wayne makes a valid point. A groin kick on a lady is not going to have quite as much effect, but I think getting kicked in the cooch does have some effect. I'm okay with leaving it some. All right. I'm good with that. We only changed a few around. I just want to get a couple punches near the top. And then I knew I wanted scissor kick takedown. I wanted a takedown move for that. So, damage as it stands. 2. I'm going to change the zeros to 1 because this is a little different than the original that we used. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. Okay. Except that should be a 2. All right. Those are basically the amount of damage you do. You do not roll. Oh, men feel it worse. I mean, based on just science, I would agree, but I don't think it's pleasurable for anybody. What size have I got that? 22. At 22. Chance of KO. And again, these are percentage chances. They're meant to be small. I may tweak these once I get them down in there as they're based currently. Three, 5, 12, 2. Okay. Fury Fist thing, I'm fine with it being a high number. KO with this, I'm almost fine taking that up a little bit percent. Hook kick 1, I'm fine with that. Tiger punch, these are chance of KO. Knee strike, we're going to bring that down to 5. Front kick, we're going to bring that down to 5. Flying side kick, I'm fine with that being 5. Groin punch, we'll take that up to 10. Back. Damn it! I just put back there. That's not a move. Oh, that's the one Jim just had back for. I need to fix that too. I forgot. I was like, what am I missing here? Ooh, I don't know what this is, but I like it. Mind Fist. That's listed as an actual ability, so I'm okay with that. Foot sweep. I'm going to put that down to 8. Groin kick. We can leave that at 15. Jumping front kick. Put that up to 5. Hook kick. We'll put that up at... I'm fine with the percentage being a little bit higher than what they have here. Some of these things. Tiger Claw. I think Tiger Claw I'd like to have a little bit higher. We'll put that at 8. 5. Back fist. We'll do that 3. We're going to assume it's to the temple. Stomping kick is going to be lower because you're hitting their foot. I don't think there's as big a chance of knocking them unconscious from the foot. Uppercut, I'm fine with that. Low roundhouse kick. That's the only round. Why do I have low roundhouse kick? I'm just going to do roundhouse. Oh, it's underneath of it. Crap! I had roundhouse already. I didn't realize that. Okay, well, I got to pick something else for... I got to pick another one for roundhouse. Bear pies. Good. Oh, there we go. I know what we're going to use. Yeah. Axe kicks rule. I love axe kicks. Nope. No. So basically, he rolls a 20 to attack. So again, real quick, we'll talk about the basics of how combat works for those folks who don't play second yet. Second edition, you have a THAC0. That is your base chance to hit someone. You have to roll over that number. At first level, it is 20. Base THAC0, you'd have to roll a 20 to hit someone. Every character has an armor class. The weakest is 10. The best is -10. We'll go over that. So, I am someone who's level 1. I have a THAC0 of 20. I'm a warrior. Someone's coming to fight me. It's another warrior. He has some armor on, but not very good. So his armor class is 6. I subtract his armor class from my THAC0. 6 from 20 means 14. I have to roll a 14 or above to hit him. Then I can also look at things like, do I have magic weapons? Do I have bonus to attack? Blah, 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 blah. That's your adjusted THAC0. I'm so strong, I get a +2 to hit. So my adjusted THAC0 is 18. I subtract that 6 of his armor class from my 18. Now I have 12. So I have to roll 12 or over to hit. Melee combat works the same way when it's unarmed combat. Jim, or a monk character, is going to roll their 20-sided. His base THAC0 is with weapon or with fist. So let's say Jim is a warrior class. Monk is technically, I believe, falls under that. His THAC0 is 19 at level 2 because it drops 1 every level. Other classes drop in a different rate, but warriors drops 1 every level. Level 2, he's 19. He's not strong enough to get a bonus hit to attack, so 19 is the best he's got. Comes up against someone who has a 6 armor class, that same warrior. 6 from my 19, right? I need 13 or above. He rolls a 15. He looks at this chart, and that's what he did. So, imagine it this way. The best I could do and hit that guy was a 13. Had I rolled 12 or below, I would have missed, and none of this would have mattered. But, as I level up, and my THAC0 goes down, and I perchance gain skills or abilities that give me bonuses to hit, I eventually need a smaller and smaller and smaller number to actually hit somebody. Except a 1 is technically always a fail, a 20 is always a success. The reason I say 20 is a success is because a natural 20 may not hit somebody. Explain again. I am a first level character. I am a warrior. My THAC0 is 20. I don't have any strength bonus. My THAC0 is 20. Warrior's coming at me. Magical plate mail. And his armor class is -3. Instead of subtracting that from my THAC0, I have to add that to my THAC0. I now need a 23 to hit him. Impossible, you would say. It's feasibly impossible for me to hit this guy because you can't roll 23 on a 20-sided dice. But anybody can get a hit in. And so a 20 hits every time. You think about that, right? It's a 5% chance of success. So a 20 always hits. At the same time, I could be that dude in the plate mail. Magical plate mail. My THAC0's 5. I'm fighting somebody who has an armor class of 10. I technically need to roll a -5 to hit you. It's impossible. But a 1 is always a fail. I roll that 1. Everybody has a chance to miss. Bad luck, slip in the grass, my weapon breaks, whatever the case is. A 1 is always a fail, regardless of whether it would technically be a success or not. Same with the 20 could be a success, even though there's no way to roll above a 20. It's to give you a chance, right? Most DMs are not going to put you in a combat like that anyways. At least not the one where you can't hit them to attack. Unless you're not meant to get them. Like it's the boss and he slaps you guys around a bit and then he takes off and later on you get more powerful and you can fight him. You're not meant to win that fight. If you put it in there as a straight up thing, your DM is trying to kill you and he's not a very good guy. Or lady, person. He's not a very good DM if he's trying to kill you. On this chart, you would roll. Why do I have kick to head down here? You would roll this chart to roll to attack. Now, the last thing we had was chance to hold. And not many of these are holds. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in this slot completely yet. But overall, I like this. I think this works well. We kept pretty much most of it the way it was. We just tweaked some of the damages are the same, except I increased the damage on the ones that were zeros. Let me see. Scissor, kick, takedown. Damage. We're going to do 2 on that because it's got the better chance. Hook kick is a 1. Tiger claw. Well, that's got to be a 2. Snap kick 1. Back fist 1. Stomping kick. We're going to make that a 1. Uppercut. Make that a 2. Low roundhouse kick 2. Axe kick. Want that to be a 2. Knee strike 1. Donkey punch 2. Front kick 1. Flying side kick 1. Groin punch 2. That makes sense. Mind fist. I don't even know what that is, but it's going to be a 2. Bear paw. I want that to be a 2. hit the wrong button. 2. Foot sweep is 1 because you're more trying to knock him down. Groin kick 2 makes sense. Jumping front kick 2. Yeah, I'm good with that. I actually increased damage more than I lowered it there. I did lower some of these, but I put a couple bigger ones in there as well. So I will work on framing this and making it look, more like it runs along the same theme as this. All right, so, and that's basically the jam. That didn't take too long at all. Yeah. Let's see, break a bone and foot, and they're not used to it. Well, that's true. That's when system shock comes in. You do enough damage to system shock, for sure. Hello, Ancient One. I'm sorry if I didn't say hello earlier. I thought I did, but just in case. Buy some dices first to talk to the employee if he lets me test the dice size on the box. Oh, there you go. That's not a bad idea. Mind Fist could be headbutt. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen someone do a headbutt in a martial arts movie or thing. I'm sure they do, but I just can't think of ever seeing one. Interesting. Something to remember. Cool. Cool indeed. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. I like that a lot. So we kind of, again, talked about character sheets. We talked about that. And I wanted to kind of bumble that down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that for a minute. Oh. Jim isn't tall enough for that. That's true. Jim is playing a gnome monk, right? So there's a little bit more limited. Mind Fist. Nobody will see that coming. That's true. If I had him headbutt somebody, it'd be a groin. I would totally give him a groin headbutt. That sounds awesome to me. Call that the scrotum bunk or something like that. I think that'd be great. Scrotal bunk. Scrotal bunk. All right. So, yes, I don't want to do that today. For the character sheet, I got that done today. And that we were going to talk about potentially some magical artifacts. Headbutt to the balls. There you go. So I'm going to zoom in like this again. So we're talking about magical artifacts as well. I've had a magical artifact in Mergedworlds for a long time, but never really sat down and defined all of its abilities. And that's something that I'm currently working on for the future. Got me thinking about our artifacts in general, right? Artifacts are special, right? Artifacts, there's a limited amount of them in existence. In most situations, 1, right? Especially if it's a named magical artifact. But there can be multiple. There can be a set, right? I'll name a few of classic D&D magical artifacts that we can, right? Dritz Dwarden swords, right? It's got Starlight and Twinkle. I think it's Starlight and Twinkle. I know one of them's Twinkle. I think it's Starlight and Twinkle. But he has 2 swords, named swords. They are artifact swords. Wolfgar's hammer that Bjorner made was also an artifact. In Dragonlance, you have the original Dragonlance, even though more came later. The Dragon Orbs, of which there were 5. Then you go back to Greyhawk, some of the early stuff. The Eye and Hand of Vecna. Not familiar with Eye and Hand of Vecna? Let me know, and we'll talk about that. But these are some very, very powerful artifacts. Dragonlance again. Staff of Mageus. Another artifact. So these are things that should be special. There should be lore about them. When creating a magical artifact, the hardest thing I feel is to not overpower it, right? Because you're creating an artifact, you want it to be special. It's important to remember to give it pros and cons. Hey, Yeet Lord, what's up, man? Where will I be March 1st? Day of the week, that is. Let me see. March 1st is a Tuesday. I don't stream Tuesdays, so I'll be chilling at home with my wife or filming stuff, I believe. That's date night normally. But artifacts, it's fighting the urge to make it too powerful. And there are ways to do that. There's a way to still give it all the abilities you want and not let it take over the game, because an artifact can break your game. You give somebody the ability to wipe out half of everything you put in front of you, you run into that common issue where part of your party is too strong for the monsters you're throwing at them, but if you throw stronger monsters at them, those are too strong for the other half of the party. So it is a challenge, correct? Yeah. Icing Death. I think Icing Death was the dragon they killed. Icing Death was the white dragon that he killed, and I believe that's where he took Twinkle from. Icing Death's treasure hoard. It was the only thing he wanted from the treasure hoard. Wolfgar took the rest to become the leader of the Northern Barbarians. Icing Death was the dragon. Let's see. Hand and Eye of Vecna. No matter if people know, it's loved to heard and heard again. Eye and Hand of Vecna. Vecna was a lich. Not just a lich. Arc lich. Arch, however you want to say that. Big ass lich. And he was a bad man. This is original Greyhawk stuff there. Greyhawk was the original D&D world. That's what Gygax and all of them originally were playing on. And some of those characters ended up coming over to some of the other ones, other worlds, especially Forgotten Realms. But when you're looking at a player's handbook and you see a spell that has somebody's name in it, it's almost always somebody's character, the original creators from Greyhawk. So Mordenkainen, Bigby, Tasha. These are Melf. That's another one. These names you see was spelled Melf's Acid Arrow, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, all of the Bigsby's Fists, all these different fist spells that can go up. All of those were Greyhawk characters. And I've read all the Greyhawk books of the original release series. They came out with some newer ones I never got to, but the early ones were really well done. And because it's the stories of the original games they played when they first created it all. Happy early birthday to you, Yeet Lord. Magical artifacts I've seen are actually cursed. We take this from you, but we do listening. Yeah, that can work. Limiting the use of powers. Limiting the use of powers is great. I want to create a cleric, but I have zero idea about which build to give him. Probably War Domain to stack up AC. Yeah, that's fifth stuff. I can't tell you. Yep, Tensor is another one. There you go. Tensor is another one. Tasha just had her own book come out in 5th edition, which is pretty cool. Tasha's Uncontrollable Hideous Laughter is a great spell. But with artifacts in general, they should be limited, right? And when creating it, give it a lore, give it a story, give it a backstory. Maybe they have to figure out what that backstory is. An artifact does not have to be intelligent, but it is much more likely to be intelligent than a regular magical item. It can still, you can still have a magic item that's intelligent. There'll be more than one of them. But usually artifacts have a better chance of that. In Mergedworlds, Menandra, at this point, if you think about it, is the only intelligent magic item or artifact that they've come across, right? There aren't any that they literally has its own, that I can remember. I think back. It's the only one that actually has a consciousness in it. And we learned the history of Menandra. That became a great story arc. And that could be a great story arc for you if you're creating an artifact. Maybe they get the artifact, but they can't use it until they find out how, and finding the history of it is part of that. Or maybe they can use it, but it works weakly, and there's something about its past they have to research in order to use it to its full potential. So when making an artifact, balancing it is important. Keep to a theme. That would be probably one of the biggest piece of advice I can give you for an artifact. Magic items, you can go a little bit crazier with. But artifacts, I think, should have a theme, right? If it's a weapon that does cold damage, it should not have a fire ability. Unless it's something of the elements. You know, there's exceptions to every rule. But if I have a staff that has 6 different ice abilities, I'm probably not going to give it 1 fire ability. You know? Whereas staves are some of the most common thing to have multitude of different abilities. that are activated abilities. Weapons historically have more passive abilities. So I have this sword that's +5 against this creature, this creature, this creature, this creature. Plus, it gives me infravision. Plus, it gives me less chance to a lower chance to be surprised. A lot of weapon skills and are I find most people will use those as constants. As long as I have this weapon, I can do this stuff. Artifact item versus legendary item. I call them the same thing. An artifact is a legendary item. I don't really have a difference between the two. An artifact does not have to be powerful to be an artifact. It only has to be unique. There's only one of them, or there's only 5 of them. Or maybe there's 1,000 out there that are copies that are all weaker, and the original is the only strong one, the one that has the full potential. So I don't normally differentiate between those. You can have some weak-ass artifacts. You can have some funny artifacts if you want. But yeah, legendary is, in my mind, the same thing as an artifact. If I find an ancient artifact, a legendary artifact, they kind of fill the same void to me. Magical laughing gas. No, you're fine. It's a good spell. If I create an artifact, it will become silly stuff like a sword that makes a concert. Prepare the stage for you don't prepare good. No, things like that work. Artifacts can be fun. I find that artifacts, more than magic items, are really good story drivers, right? Again, giving a couple examples of those of you who've listened to any of my Mergedworlds stuff. Menandra is the ultimate story driver in my series, right? You think about that. Menandra shows up. That completely changed who Michael was. It completely changed who Dandy was, who also became a hunter, and that affected both of their lives, right? Then Michael has the accident with Menandra, and then there's a whole quest to save Michael. That was a whole campaign arc, or adventure arc of that campaign was the saving of Michael, all because of Menandra and learning Menandra's history and how it came to be created and all that kind of stuff. That gave us Corman, right? Gave us the Dwarven Kingdom. Like, so much came out of Menandra being there, right? And Menandra pops up a lot in Mergedworlds and continues to be important. The Visanya Stones, which our 4 main heroes had to search out to get back the original artifacts. The Visanya Stones were artifacts, but they were like a much, much weaker version of Infinity Stones. They weren't based on that. It just turned out to kind of be that way. Where each one had special abilities, but putting them together, you could control more things at once. But you didn't ever get to the point of making half of the universe. It was never anything like that. Well-mannered sword. For example, someone sneezes, you don't say bless you, or if you don't wash your hands, they'll get mad and don't work properly. You can have snobby artifacts all the time. I see that happen all the time. Artifacts that think they're too good to be used by the user. That's a common D&D trope. You see that in a lot of the novels. Every D player wants a Gwenwivar. That's correct. Gwenwivar is a figurine of wondrous power. Artemis had the lions. In my current group, our cleric of knowledge has the figurine of wondrous power, the owl, which is a cool little magic. Kind of messed up. You're good. But yeah, so artifacts wise can be a great story driver. Searching for an artifact. I've used that a lot of times in my adventures as well. When they were going to go fight the Emperor of Oromon, they had to split up into teams and go after 3 different artifacts that were needed for that adventure. So using an artifact is a great story. You have to be careful that it doesn't end up hurting it after the fact, right? You don't want your artifact to be so powerful that now every time they use it, it just makes it very impossible to balance a story. Because balancing is everything in D&D when you're a DM. Balancing the creatures or monsters that they're fighting to not be too high or too low level. You want to challenge them. You want there to be danger, but you don't want to slaughter them. And you don't want them to just wipe the bad guys without it being a challenge. The puzzles that you create, same type of thing. They can't be overly complicated where you're going to spend 6 hours of your session trying to figure out one puzzle. Majority of groups not going to keep coming back for that type of D&D. And exceptions to every rule, I know. Majority groups don't want to spend there for 6 hours trying to figure out one puzzle. It's just not as much accomplishment. When you get it done, oh, I finally got that done. But it's more like, oh, I'm finally rid of that, more than it is, oh, I achieved something. You know, having multiple puzzles that each come with their own reward or progress the story some way, I find, because I've tried this, I've tried the big one versus several smaller ones always go over better. People's attention span is small. And your party may love D&D and they may want to be there and they're all about it, but it is not hard to lose their attention. And I'm going to call almost all of you out, if you've ever played D&D, with the next statement that I'm going to make. You are losing your players' interest when they start to stack their dice as high as they can. We've been sitting there and seeing somebody start to 6 on the bottom, 8, is a 10 or a 20, all the way up to the 4 on top. People stack dice all the time. When people are sitting there messing with stacking with the dice, you need to move on. You need to get some type of action point. They're starting to lose interest. Because I'll tell you, I hate that. I hate people stacking the dice. Because there's nothing worse when you're trying to tell the story and everybody else is into it, and then it falls and dice goes everywhere and it's loud and it just annoys everybody. I hate stacking. But at some point, pretty much everybody's done it. It can also get frustrating if you get stuck. Exactly. Very much so. But yes, when someone is sitting there and they're focusing more on trying to make the 20 not knock the 10 dice over, they're not focusing on what you're saying or what the other players are saying. Now, that said, sometimes that's on the player. If you're doing that and everybody's engaged except that one person, that's something you talk to that. What is it you're not enjoying about this? What is it that you're obviously not into it? You're not focusing on it, and that's cool. I want you to have a good experience with everybody. What is it about this that doesn't really grab you as much as this part we did earlier, which really seemed to? There's nothing wrong with talking with your players and saying, hey, guys, we just finished this adventure. Which parts were your favorite? Which parts were your least favorite? Really enjoyed the combat and the puzzle. It was really cool to work with the minis and so on and so forth. Yeah, the puzzle thing, it took too long. There were too many in a row. It felt like it just dragged. This helps you style your game as a DM for your players. Okay, cool. That didn't go over as well. I can still do puzzles. I just maybe have to make them a little bit easier and a little bit less often. I shouldn't chain them. It shouldn't be puzzle, 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 puzzle. It might be puzzle, combat, adventure, then here's another puzzle. You know, that's a great way to design your dungeon. You're like, okay, cool. There was too many puzzles. So instead of having a puzzle dungeon, you have to get a puzzle to get into the dungeon, but then there's a couple combats, and then you have to run away from a something or other and do some magic stuff, and then maybe there's another puzzle to get to the second wing of the dungeon. So that way they have that breakup of jumping into combat, rolling dice, and doing all that stuff before they have to figure out which order the rings on the wall go, you know, depending on the puzzle you're using. So when I say keeping balance as a DM, it's very, very challenging. That's harder than anything else. Coming up with a story and an adventure, super easy. It's keeping it balanced so that everybody's having fun, so that things aren't too hard, but they're also not too easy. They're not too boring. Although you can't really be too fun. If you pull off too fun, you're fine. Not less, easier, maybe a bit less. Right, and that's where you have to tool it based on your players, right? If it took a really long time because the puzzle was just too challenging, maybe go a little bit more basic, let them work up to it. If it's a really long time and it really wasn't that challenging, and I'm saying they're not smart, they just weren't engaged enough to truly focus on it, then you really want to make them shorter. Make sure it's something you can pop through pretty quickly. Let's see. Hate to change the subject, but is that a completed Rubik's Cube on the shelf? I've never had that kind of patience. Now you get one. You're welcome. Yes. I always wanted one. My wife got me one. I think it took a couple weeks to finally get it all done. So balance. And a lot of that comes back to artifacts. It goes right into the artifact conversation we're having. When I'm creating an artifact, I start with its theme, right? Why is this an artifact? You know, give it the lore and the background. I like that before the powers. unless I need a specific power, right? Like the Sunstone is another artifact in Merged Worlds, right? Where it's undead, makes light of the sun, right? I needed something that could provide that ability, so I took that, and then I had to be like, okay, what's the limitations? A cleric can only be used by a cleric once a day. You know what I mean? Once it's used, it takes a full 24-hour cycle. Basically, the sun has to come back around to noon before you can cast it again, or anyone can use it again, with the exception of rolling divine intervention. A whole thing again. So that, there are situations where that can happen, right? But overall, I usually start with the idea of the weapon. Okay, I want a magical sword. It's a magical sword that belonged to an ice giant. I want to have it cold themed. Okay, let's go through the player's handbook. Spells. What spells would make a cool effect on a weapon? And that's important to me. I try to replicate spells in the player's handbook or equivalent guides when creating a magic as often as possible. Again, there's exceptions, but as often as possible. And that's because to create a magic item in Dungeons & Dragons, you have to cast, second edition rules, you have to cast enchant weapon, or enchant item, I'm sorry. Enchantment is the spell, which prepares it for enchantments. Then you have to cast the spells that give it its ability. Then, if you want it to last permanently, you have to cast permanency, which is 2 levels higher than enchant a magic item. You can create a temporary magic item, and it'll run out of magic eventually. But you got to cast permanency if you want it to be permanent. It's a sequence of spells. Somebody had to create this. How did they do it? Right? That's part of that lore. So if they could do it, is it possible you could do it in the exact same situation as a character? Maybe. That situation may never exist again. Let's see here. Hey, Draven, small question. Can you speak French? Just a little bit. I spoke way more when I moved here, but it's been 30 years almost. I can still count an alphabet, and I remember certain words. If I hear it or read it, I can sometimes understand it better than if I'm speaking, trying to actually get the words out myself. Very, very minor. Also, I like the idea of everyone can solve the puzzle, even the 8 intelligent barbarian. It can have a brilliant idea sometimes. Yeah, it should be. I don't make people play their intelligence, right? And that's a great example. Somebody has an 8-level barbarian. Some people think that's dumb. I hate to blow all of your minds out there, but most of you are a 7 or 8 intelligence. 7 to 10 is considered average for a regular person in the early years of D&D. 7 to 10 or 8 to 11 was considered average ability. Once you start getting into 12, 13, and 14, you're gifted. 15, 16, 17, you're special. And you get 18 or above, you're a savant. And that's how it's always been meant to be, that the average person is of a middle range. You should always have 1 or 2 skills that put you normal. So a normal person at level 8 should be able to do that. But it's hard to say, hey, person sitting in my group, I need you to think unintelligently. And you have a 19, so you have to solve all the problems. It's not how people work. You can't think smarter than you are either. That's when roles come in, right? That's when you're like, okay, I need you to roll an intelligence check. Because you're so smart, you notice this in the pattern. I don't have to have them figure that out. That can be part of me seeding the thing, or seeding the puzzle or the quest itself. Hey, you're a smart person, roll. You failed? Why? What happened? Nothing. Keep going. You succeeded? You notice this pattern. You see something familiar. You get maybe you give them the first step, and now they got to figure out the rest. But that's enough to get them started. That's where I feel intelligence should come into play, because you can't ask them to think smarter or dumber than they are. You just can't do it. What is that dragonish pet? What a great question. Bear with me a moment, and I'll show it. One of my community members does this for a living. It's Panda. He made this for me. Pull him out here and try not to knock anything else. Made this for me a year ago and sent it to me. This is a Merged Worlds, the Merged Worlds symbol. There's on the forehead, ODG 20-sided dice. This is meant to represent Menandra, the god of Menandra in my world. Or not Menandra, I'm sorry. There's a god in my world that's two gods in one body, the god of chaos and the goddess of order. And their body shifts between one and the other. And this was a dragon that was meant to represent that. And look, it's got 20-sided shaped dies. Guys are 20-sided, right? And then, but she makes things like this. She made my wife a great big bat, too, because my wife loves bats. But the wings are wired. Got wires in them, so it's exceptional. And she sent me that as a surprise gift one day. Blew my mind. But hey, I haven't got the little Mergedworlds symbols. I love that. I always knew the basic idea of the Mergedworld. I knew it was a moon with light. This exact symbol was created by Shadowcast. Another community member, their wife did a needlepoint Mergedworld symbol and sent me that as well. People, a friend of mine made dice boxes. Let me see. Right there. This is a custom ODG dice box, and he sent it in another ODG dice box, which is wooden as well. So those are custom ODG stuff. That's an ODG water bottle here. That's something I sell on my store. Like I said, the poster, that's on my store, things like that as well. Anyways, there's answer that question. But yes, the dragon is phenomenal. And a surprise gift, which was really awesome. Let's see. On YouTube, if you watch it online, the intro is the Star or intro song. I don't know if you can get a strike for it. Oh, I wouldn't post it up. I wouldn't watch it here because it could, but yeah, take a look for sure. I'll go check that. So yeah, artifact creation, which is one of the things we talked about today. Artifact creation, and working that out. And I've there's many times I haven't got it right the first time. There is nothing wrong with going to your characters, your players. Listen, created this thing. It's too powerful. I have to change it a bit. Sometimes there'll be unhappiness about it. Sometimes they'll like it because sometimes you're making it better. But if one person is overly powerful compared to everybody else in the group, people are not going to have fun. Got to find a way to, again, balance that out. So you got to, but to avoid that, getting it right the first time. If it's going to have a lot of abilities, make them time gated. Maybe it has charges. Maybe you can only use them so often. Time gate them in some way so they're not just popping them off every time you turn around. My wife, who's playing the Drow Cleric of Knowledge, has that Figurine of Wondrous Power owl that I was telling you about. She can whip that owl out, and it'll fly around. She can speak to it telepathically, can spy, go certain ranges for up to, for long, and as often as she wants with a little bit of cooldown. But it has an ability to become a giant owl she can ride on, but she can only do that 3 times. If she does it 3 times, it disappears and crumbles to dust forever. So it has an ability she can use as much as you like, which is more on the weaker side, and then the bigger one, giant owl she can fly on that'll attack things, is more limited. So you're like, ooh, do I want to waste one? Because when it's not even when the 3rd one's done, I still get to keep it and only get the weak stuff. I lose everything at that 3rd one. It makes people get stingy with it. The hardest artifacts are weapons. Hands down. The hardest thing is weapons. Because you want the weapon to be cool, you want them to be able to do some cool stuff, but it's so easy to get overpowered on it. You know what I mean? Want to give those cool abilities. That's why I like a theme. It's got all these cool cold abilities. Does all this damage against fire stuff. Doesn't affect most other things. Hanzo said, okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll get back with you on Sunday about it. Can do. 3 times a week, that'll work. I like magic items and artifacts that you can turn on and use for a period of time. And then when you stop it, you can't use it for the same period of time that you used it for. So if I have a magical torch, which for the record, there's a torch of flaring that they have it's one of those magic items that wasn't important to the story, but they have a magical torch of flaring which will light up into flame whenever they want. Once every 24 hours, they can do it. Have a burst of flash air, which can, or a bright flash, which can daze things that aren't, almost like a flash grenade. They used it a lot in Coromon when they were down there in the dungeon. It was dark and they were fighting the demons and stuff. But the torch of flaring was like that. You could magically turn the torch on. You can even drop it, set it down, stick it on your wall, and it'll go forever. But if you turn it off, you can't turn it on for the time that it was off. You know what I mean? So if I use it down underground for 3 days and I turn it off, I can't use it for 3 days. So the longer somebody uses it, the less they're going to have access to it later. It makes them be stingy with it now. I really want to use this, but if I do, I'm going to be able to use it tomorrow. So that's a fun way to do that. Easy to get overpowered, but you can overpower enemies. You can overpower enemies. But the problem with overpowering enemies works the same way. But it's easier with overpowering enemies because you control them. You can make things happen that makes it easier. They break a weapon, they drop a weapon, whatever you need to happen, you know. One of them accidentally stabs the other one. You can make that happen a lot easier. But if your character is someone who's overpowered, it's hard to stop them from being overpowered, especially if they're using it the way you designed it, right? And again, if you make it overpowered to fight them, it's now too overpowered. Overpowered for the rest of the party have no shot. And then they're not having fun because the one person with the magic artifact is doing all the work. So, yeah. That's the thing. The balancing act of being a DM is a challenge, but you get better at it. Just like anything else with practice. When you sit down and you start messing with your artifacts, I suggest starting with a theme. Right? Give it a theme. It makes it a little bit more interesting that way. Especially, you know, the theme is usually going to tie into its history somehow. And if they don't know the history, maybe over time they get to find out somehow, right? Especially if you're doing a regular world of some kind. Oh, hang on a second. Something stupid just happened. There we go. Sorry, I had to fix something stupid. So they themes are good. Like I have like Menandra's all undead based, right? All of her abilities work when fighting undead. She can sense undead, she knows about undead, she does extra damage against undead. She has some special abilities that do harmful things to undead. Against everything else, she's just a +1 or +2 spear. You know? And there's nothing wrong with that. A magical weapon should still be usually at least a +1 against whatever else. And I say that because if you have really cool weapons like that, that's the weapon people want to draw and fight most of the time. And if you're like, listen, I got 5 swords, but I can only use this one against them, this one against this one. I can never use this one against those one. Then now you're having to deal with all that kind of business. It's like, this is at least a spear +1. If something basic magical shows up, I can still poke it. I'm still helping the group, even though I'm not using my cool magic undead abilities. I have a sword of acid tongue that I made. And it has acid themes about it, obviously, right? It was made by a green dragon. Acid breath was the concept there. Made for his green dragons are historically pretty strong magic users, and so made it into used its magic to create a sword of acid for his wielder. And when his wielder died, the dragon just went off and disappeared. And there's an evil dude on an evil dragon. These are not good people, but it's still a pretty powerful sword that ended up out there in circulation after he died. Yeah. I've got that slightly fixed now by making you have to be a sub for 5 minutes before you can post. That's really cut down on that. This person was just patient. I hope to not have to bump that up to higher time periods. It was a recommendation somebody made, and it was every stream. This is probably the first one I've had since I changed it. Yeah. So yeah. I would love to sit here and actually create artifacts with you. But I can't, because then you'll know how they work when I put them in Mergedworlds. It's a challenge when I am writing something for Mergedworlds or my live group, and I can't talk about it here, which would be the perfect place to talk about it, because that's half my audience. And so I don't want to ruin it for everybody, right? The artifact that I'm working on is something for Mergedworlds right now. I can tell you a little bit about our adventure today. So the adventure that our characters are going on, they were hired by Darby O'Malley, a very half Irish, half Scottish halfling, who hired them to go get a magical copper ring that is locked in a place away from him that matches the ring he has. And it's to the east. And so they went on some adventures to the east. They dealt with the undead elves we were talking about earlier. Managed to get through that. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I jump in and report them as well every chance I get. So when they got to where they were going, which was a tower in the middle of a lake, when they arrived there, this tower wasn't on an island in the middle of the lake. It's in the middle of the lake, and the lake's exceptionally deep. There was a raft there that they were able to use, and they sailed over it. And it looked like it was all weird blackened stones. And it looks unnaturally thin, right? So it's tall and thin. It's not thin, but it feels like it's awfully tall to be that thin, if that makes sense. Darby O'Malley. And I give him a half Irish, half Scottish. I go back and forth in it on purpose. You guys want to see him? You want to see what Darby looks like? I can show you what Darby looks like. Darby O'Malley. Oh, me friends. I need you to do a quest for me. I've got things I need you to do. Yes, and he is their benefactor. Relatively wealthy. And I can guarantee you that he's going to be around for a while, sending them on errands and things to do. Give me one moment here, and I will grab Darby O'Malley. I can show you what he looks like. I painted the mini for him already. New one. Darby in here. Give me a moment. I gotta pull up the file. It's in the Mergedworlds page. Miniatures. Darby O'Malley. There he be. Darby O'Malley. They had come into this small town, and no, he's not a leprechaun. Leprechauns are different in D&D. But he hasn't yet. No, we'll talk about that though. They were at an inn in this small town, and he popped up and was like, "You are just the group of people that I'm looking for. I need you to get me this ring, and I'll reward you heavily. If you get it, I'll reward you heavily. I need you to get this ring for me." And they ended up taking the quest. And he lives in a nice house. He's any supplies you want, I'll give them to you, so on and so forth. And he sent them. He gave them a magical orb type thing that they could communicate with him. And when they use the command word, it'll basically make his like throb and light so they know that it's lit up. But if he doesn't have it with him, he won't answer until he sees that. When he sees it, he just has to tap it to basically answer the call. And then their side will bing, give a little, like a noise. So they can keep it in a pouch. They'll hear it like, oh, good, he's finally answering. And it's the same thing. They could call him, and unless they take it out and check it, they don't see that it's throbbing in the light, right? They gave him a little bag where it would keep it safe, keep it from getting scratched inside. But they called him when they got there, because they get to this tower, and the windows are just right at water level. One of them has a ring of water walking, so she walked across the water, pulling the raft by a rope. Lord knows they have a lot of rope. And when I'm gonna shrink Darby just a little. They got across the lake, They get there and they can't find a door. They go around to one side and they find what appears to be a larger window than the others. And all the windows are like stained glass windows. They're not like hinged windows that you'd open up. One of them has a crowbar. He tried to break one of the windows and it deflected off and it shined. I cut myself off earlier. So it showed like it was all these black stones. As they were approaching it on the raft, there's like a shimmering thing around it. And they walk through, and it's something that's an illusion. They walk through, and now it's a giant quartz-looking built tower. Same design, but it's now quartz, and the windows are much more snazzy-looking. But the illusion made it look like an old, worn-out tower in the middle of the water. So when they arrive, they realize that they can't get to the bottom of the lake. It's too deep just to swim down there. And the tower just goes down into that. So the tower is attached to the ground. There's not an island here. It goes straight down into the water. This is Mergedworlds, and I can do stuff like that. And they eventually found that there was a door, a big double doors underwater. And they go down there, and one of them was ready to try to pull it open. And if you've ever tried to open a door underwater, you know that's dang near impossible. But it flung open like there was no water resistance at all. The water didn't go rushing in. They went through the doorway. They were inside, and there's stairs going up and there's stairs going down. The stairs went down a long ways and came to a chamber with two big doors that look just like the big wooden doors they came through, but these ones are made out of a silver type metal. And as they approach it, the rogue, who's a dark dwarf, was going to try to check for traps and such. As he got close to the door, a chain appears with some type of locking mechanism that's unlike anything he's ever seen before. It's like a piece is missing that you'd put into it and turn, and there's different holes and weird looking gear things that the thing would connect into. So whatever you're looking for on the back has to have weird things sticking out that would line up. So they had to go back up, and they get to this chamber. The entrance chamber is just empty, but they go up, they get to another chamber much like it. There's no pedestals, and the walls seem unnaturally thin. It doesn't make sense why this tower has not caved in upon itself right now. And when they get there, in the middle of this room, imagine there's a dais that stands up about this tall, 8 feet diameter. And in front of it is a magical snow globe. Imagine that, shaped like a snow globe. But it's shimmering, just like the shimmering on the tower is, why they couldn't break through the glass, because it's shimmering. There's a shimmering that will let them damage the outside. And there's a shimmering there. And going up the stairs, that same shimmering is blocking them from going forward, except it's solid. They poked it. They haven't touched this. I call it the snow globe, but you can't see inside of it. And so they decided that their monk was going to throw a dart at it and see what it did. Is it physical? Is it magical? They threw a dart at it, and it faded, and something walked out. Now, I'm not going to say what that is, because some of you who've been playing D&D, if I describe it, you'll know exactly what it is. But they don't, because they're all new to D&D. And the next time we play, they're going to have to deal with what just walked out of there. Did I make your minis yet? I'll be honest, no. I've not got a chance to mess with that yet this week. I was doing a lot with that character sheet. Took me like 2 days to get that all done. I spent like an hour just finding the right color. Different pressure is a thing, and that sounds weird, or Mergedworlds. Exactly. So I have been planning this tower for a while. Back when they were doing their last adventure, I was already working on the tower. The stuff between the town and the tower was relatively new, but the tower I've known for a while. And so I'm excited to get them into it. We did a couple small adventures with them. Got them a level under. They got to level 2. They're like 2.5 at this point. And they got a couple magic items under their belt. Nothing super powerful, but a few things to poke with. You know, a ring of water walking, the magical owl. You know, which are cool, but they don't break the game in any way. They got a couple things under them. I wanted them to get that experience before I actually jumped into a longer term storyline. Before I gave them a campaign, I gave them a couple adventures. And I did the same thing with Mergedworlds. Originally, back in the day, you'll remember when I told the story, they had to go, there's the story of Old Poot, and they had to go do his little adventure. Then there was the kidnapped kids, They saved the town with the kidnapped kids from the Knolls. Those were mini adventures to get them into D&D, and they're the same mini adventures that I'd run every group I've ever played with through, except for my current group, because they've heard Mergedworlds and they know it already. But every other, as the first adventures I ever wrote, was that Knoll kids kidnapping thing, way back when I was 10 and 11. And I've altered it a bit, but it's basically still the same thing. Hey, Tyler. And so that's how I always run it. But I couldn't do it with these guys because they already knew that story. But Mergedworlds was that, to see if they were going to actually enjoy D&D. It's a good test. It's a good test adventure. And I wouldn't care to put that together and release it on my website as a pre-made adventure. Any adventure that I make will be the lore, the monsters, and the basic stuff. I would avoid making it 2nd edition, 5th edition. It would be the story stuff where you can put in your own specs. You know what I mean? So it would give you everything, maps, dungeons, even the creatures, maybe supply some of the magic items, at least the stuff that's customed. And then as a DM, you'd be like, okay, I play 5th edition, so this is what a kobold has. This is what an ogre, this is how I use their skills and such. Is the concept if I was to put together pre-made adventures with maps and everything and put them online, which I'd like to do. I'd like to put that together. Hear that depending on the group, if the DM thinks it will be near impossible for the party to kill, it's just enough for a decent fight, but that depends on the group. It can. I mean, you make mistakes as a DM. Sometimes you bite off more than you can chew, and you give them something that's just mopping the floor with them. In that situation, I'll nerf him in the moment. I got no problem doing that. I wrote it. You know what I mean? It's not like there's some rule I have to make them act this certain way. I will nerf them if they're too strong. I want them to have they've got to have a shot. I never ever put them in a situation where they're guaranteed to die. I will kill NPCs without hesitation if I think it's good for the story. The girls I played D&D with learned to dread 2 statements. About that time, y'all know that one. About that time, I'm going to get a shirt that says that. DM says it's about that time, it's already too late. But that's one. And the other one that they hated even more was, but it's great for the story. I'm like, I've got something coming up this weekend. I've got something real special in this weekend's adventure. Are we going to like it? Are we going to hate it? I can only tell you this. It'll be great for the story. And sometimes bad things have to happen for the story to be good. When I killed Draven originally, she didn't know he'd be coming back later. She didn't talk to me for almost 3 weeks. Good times. There are very few DMs that are party murderers, and I hate watching. It's true, and they don't last long as a DM because people don't want to play with them, you know? And as a DM, I don't want people who don't want to role play. That's not my style of DMing. I want people who are really into the story. I'm going to have some combat. I'm going to have some puzzles and magic items. I'm going to have all the stuff you're looking for. But I want people to be attached to their characters. A lot of groups will do an adventure, then they'll all roll up new characters, then they'll do an adventure, and they'll all roll up new characters and do an adventure, and then they'll go back and do some of their other characters or mix them up. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how D&D started. All right, this week we're playing the characters. Everybody needs a character between level 5 and 7. I got a rogue. Well, if you'll bring a rogue, I got a mage I can bring. And that's how people did that. There was no reason. How did they meet? They just knew each other, and they went on an adventure. For me, Mergedworlds is more lore-based. I want there to be a story that connects everything. My current group's adventure is happening way in the past of Mergedworlds at this point. It's just, Mergedworlds only existed 1.5 to 2 years at this point. Whereas in Mergedworlds itself, the kids are adults. So, it's kind of putting all that stuff together. Yeah, Mergedworlds is my jam. But yeah, again, I like the lore side of it a lot. So for me, I want the story to be engaging. I want there to be NPCs that they connect with, that they're protective of, that they will hate to see something happen to. Then it hurts even more when I do something to them. Not saying I will, but I'm going to. To somebody. It has to happen eventually. eventually an NPC is going to die. If you're worried about all of them, makes it easy. But, you know, I'm also not trying to terrorize people, right? Like for example, when Tevin and the Tribals joined Artemis and Draven and Michael and Danny, nickname was One Hit Tevin. That was a joke between me and the players. And boy, God, did they do everything in the world to protect that kid. Sure, I was going to kill him. You know what I mean? That they were determined. They had every moment in everything in their being had determined that I created him to kill him. It was fun. It was fun because I kept making him do silly things that put him in dangerous situations, and then they'd freak out. Is this how he's going to kill him? They'd freak out and be jumping in front of bullets and stuff. Ends up hiring a bunch of crackhead commandos to complete the adventure for me, as they somehow managed to complete by being right. For me, it's a story. It needs to be read in order. It will be a while till I get to the new stuff. Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah. I'm being vague with some of the characters and stuff that I'm saying. I'm purposely avoiding trying to give spoilers. Like I said things like Menandra and Michael, but that doesn't make a lot of sense until you get down the road, right? Most of that will not be a surprise. I mean, will be a surprise when you still get there. I avoid talking about it as much as I can, but I know I could talk about my live group's adventure right now because it has no effect on the Mergedworlds story, or so they believe. But that's another thing. There may be a few connecting threads that they'll get a kick out of when they eventually get there. In fact, one may have already happened or been happening, and they haven't realized it or figured it out yet. I'm very excited when that realization kicks in. But yeah, it should be interesting, to say the least. Queen says, I know these names because I looked at the minis on the site, except Menandra. Nothing about them, though. Yeah. It's, I put them up there, and I also have the Mergedworlds Instagram account where I post Mergedworlds stuff and the minis on there. Mostly it's the minis, but some maps and things. I need to get the map up on the website. I can't remember if I've actually got it up there or not. Check on that. I've got the first map ready, and I'm almost done the second one. Crack commandos, I mean crack. I said top notch. Oh, gotcha. Not guys high on drugs. I read it as crack commandos. I was like, I don't know what that is, but boy, they want their drugs. Now I know what you mean by elite commandos. That's funny. Adorable minis. Yeah, they're really cool. I can get them. You know, that's the thing. Originally, you can, from the website I use, which is Hero Forge, highly recommend using them. They're free. They have some you can pay to have a membership, and I've just did that last month. I've been using them for like 1.5 to 2 years at this point. You could do a billion things. Almost everybody you saw was made with the free version, but with the paid version, I have the ability to put 2 together. So that's been kind of a fun thing I've been doing here the last week or two. But I do have the ability to either have them print. I can have them printed out and I can paint them. I can have them 3D print them out painted. Sounds even better to me because I can't paint minis. I have no artistics. Or you can just get the pattern for like $3 and you can 3D print it yourself. So I highly recommend them. They are not a sponsor of this channel, but by God, I wish they would because I love their product. So yeah. Well, we've been chatting now for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I have legit loved every minute of it. Let me get rid of Darby here. But we're getting right about the time that I'm going to call this one a day. Thank you all for coming and hanging out and listening to me jibber job about stuff today. If you had a good time, whether you're watching it today, tomorrow, or 10 years down the road, it would be awesome if you'd consider giving a like. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe as well so you can hang out. Every other Thursday is Behind the Dice, where it's like this. I work on D&D projects. We talk about D&D, talk different topics. I was going to get to puzzles today, and I didn't get to that. So next week, we're going to talk specifically about where I come up with puzzles, how I design puzzles, from everything from a puzzle dungeon to just a puzzle room. It's going to be very puzzle-based next time. Now, that's not going to be for a little bit longer than normal. Next week is Mergedworlds. So I alternate it. That's the story. The week after that, which would be Behind the Dice, I will not be having a stream that Thursday night. My wife really wants to see the new Batman movie, and I've promised that I would take her. And that is the best night for myself and my friends that are going with us. So Behind the Dice, 2 weeks from now, there will not be a stream that Thursday night. But Mergedworlds next week and Mergedworlds 2 weeks after that will be there. I always plan these things. I'd rather, if I had to, cancel Behind the Dice than cancel a Mergedworlds. So I try to plan things that way. I'd love to see a dual mini of that scene where Maya and Rafe. Oh, yeah. That's a really good idea, Queen. That's a really good idea. Well, I was going to play No Man's Sky after this, but now I may do that instead. Deeply understandable. Hopefully, I mean, she's really. I'm indifferent, but she's really excited about. She's excited about the Riddler character. She's more into Batman than I am. But yeah, we'll go check it out. So my next stream tomorrow night and Saturday night, I'm over on my Twitch channel, Onlydraven Gaming. It's all one word, no space, no underscore. If you got a Twitch channel, please come over, give us a follow over there. Tomorrow night is either going to be No Man's Sky or Witcher 3. Saturday night is my 7 Days to Die night with my good friend Colonel Gaming. We'll be in there playing together with some live stuff going on. There's live extensions where you guys, just by watching and chatting, earn points, and you get to summon zombies and throw horrible stuff at us. So come watch that out and play for sure. And then I'm back here on YouTube Sunday night and Monday night starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern for some Minecraft. Although we may be starting a new mod pack this weekend. Pretty sure we will. If we don't start it Sunday, we will Monday for sure. All right. We're excited about Catgirl. I don't know that one. All right, kids, I'm going to call this a day. Again, thank you all for coming and listening to me jibber jab and share my D&D stuff with you. If you have questions about this or any of my D&D content, you can leave that down in the comments section. I'll do my best to get back with you as quickly as I can. Or you can join our Discord channel. There's D&D and Mergedworlds themed threads there. Excuse me. You can go there by going to my website, onlydraven.com. Link at the top. Click on that. Takes you right into the Discord. We'd love to have you. Chat about all sorts of things in there. Or if you just want to chat about whatever, join the Discord anyways. All my socials are there and all that stuff. All right? I'm going to slide out of here. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. I hit that too soon. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great night.